Yeah, and thank you. And also, it's an honor to follow up Bruce as a speaker now with such a amount of experiences, specifically on CO2, while mine is more on all gases that we serve, kind of. So it might look like I'm the CO2 specialist for you after these few weeks of events now, but. But anyway, what's also interesting is the difference between the US situation and the European situation. So I heard some interesting differences here. And on the other hand, I'm glad that he talked about the crisis of a few years ago, because this nightmare I don't like to talk to anymore about. We passed that. Anyway, CO2 has always been a special molecule and a special gas in the business. And that's probably mainly because it has always been called as a byproduct. And like I said last week, how I hate that name, a byproduct, because who wants to pay for a byproduct? Not any customer wants to pay for a byproduct. So we always try to find to add value to that molecule, to that gas, towards our customers with all kind of applications in all kind of industries, and mainly on the food industry. Now we better call it like a co-product, or like you at the title of this webinar on a feedstock or a resource to be used. And that's where the future most probably is for this molecule CO2. So we lived through these difficult days, and it was a wake-up call, especially on that made the majority of the CO2 in Europe is based on ammonia production. And then as long as that ammonia production runs well, that's okay. And we had our challenges, seasonal challenges, as the CO2 business ever had. In winter times and in summer times, but this was a wake-up call that it was too dependent on just one main industry, which is the ammonia industry. And so I think the challenge and opportunity for the coming years is diversification for CO2 sources. And obviously, some are already ongoing for some time, like bioethanol is now a major source for CO2 here in Europe. Ethylene oxide is a major source with high purity CO2 as well, and quite controllable. Here and there, we start to see steam methane reformers as a potential source of CO2. And that's going to be even to be expanded and to be further diversified. That's one of the challenges, but I would say also the opportunity. And I think Bruce talked about, he called that renewable natural gas. I think we would call that here like bio-CO2 recovery from biomethane production out of biogas from biomass. And he mentioned this is maybe too small, or very small units, like 20 tons per day, 50 tons per day units. On the other hand, that might also be the opportunity, because we are very used to a centralized model of CO2 production. Here in Nippon Gases, by the way, in our region, we host, I think it's about the largest CO2 production plant in Europe, up to almost 1,000 tons per day of production. So with a very centralized logistic system. From there, trucks drive all over Western Europe to serve all these customers. We also have some ships that from this plant, which is like a huge giant plant, too big for even this Western Europe demand, we ship the CO2 up to other places where there is less supply and more demand. Could be in the UK, could be in Scandinavia countries, could be to any place where there is at that moment a shortage of CO2 available. So this model is an interesting model that helped us through crises, and I'm sure will help us in the future also for these challenges that are upcoming. Now, maybe having said that, we might have to rethink partially this model of centralized production, and then from there go to 1,000 customers. With these smaller plants, we might set up a logistic platform which is like much more localized and from there serve local community, local customers as well. You would say economy of scale, this is not going to work, but I compare that sometimes with renewable energy and electricity and solar panels of people on the roof. In the beginning, we thought this is never going to happen. The high voltage grid cannot transport that. It's going to be too localized. But in the meantime, it seems that with some data management, digitalization, AI, and whatever other thing, it is possible. So that might also be possible for CO2 production locally. And one thing you do is you avoid transport cost. And transport of a gas is always a difficulty, whether it's in a gas form or liquid form. For liquid, you need energy to make the liquid. A gas transportation is always a challenge.